Hello everyone, I'm Tisam, and today we're diving into a fascinating and critical world, software security. We'll be discussing threats that jeopardize our data and the application we use every day. Throughout this video, we'll explore common yet dangerous software threats like buffer overflow, SQL injection, cover channel, cross-site script, backdoors, memory object, and tactile. Software security is a paramount in an era where technology is an integral part of our lives. By learning to recognize and address this threat, we can protect our application and personal data. So, if you're ready to delve into the intricacies and solution of software security, stick around. This video will equip you with the knowledge to defend against these threats. Let's get started. Let's start with one of the oldest and most dangerous vulnerability, buffer overflow. This vulnerability occurs when a program writes data outside the allocated buffer, overwriting other parts of memory. To better understand buffer overflow, imagine an application that takes a user input and stores it in the buffer without checking its length. An attacker could send malicious data longer than the buffer, overwriting the surrounding memory area. To prevent buffer overflow, it's crucial to implement boundary checks to ensure that the data is stored in appropriately sized buffers. Now, let's move on to another common vulnerability, SQL injection. This threat occurs when data isn't properly sanitized before being used in SQL queries, allowing attackers to execute malicious commands in the database. Think of a search form that doesn't properly validate input data. An attacker could insert a malicious SQL statement and gain unauthorized access to the database. To defend against SQL injection, it's essential to use parameterized statement or object relational mapping frameworks that handle sanitization automatically. Moving on, let's explore two often interconnected vulnerabilities, cross-site scripting and cross-site request forgery. These threats are particularly dangerous for web applications. To better understand, picture web applications that allow users to post comments. An attacker could inject malicious script that runs in other user browsers or force users to perform unwanted actions without their consent. To protect against these threats, it's vital to adopt practices such as input validation and the use of cross-site request forgery tokens. Last but not least, let's consider cover channels, backdoors, and trapdoors. This vulnerability enables attackers to create secret access or unauthorized communication within an application. To safeguard your application from these threats, it's necessary to conduct a code analysis to detect suspicious code and implement intrusion detection mechanisms. Now, let's turn our attention to memory object reuse, an often underestimated vulnerability. Imagine a scenario where an application reuses memory objects previously allocated without ensuring that sensitive data that has been properly cleared. To defend against this vulnerability, it is advisable to implement rigorous memory management and ensure that sensitive data is correctly disposed. Now, let's move to time of check to time of use. It's an acronym representing a class of vulnerability where a condition is checked at one point in time but can be exploited at later time. Consider what could happen if an attacker exploits this vulnerability. For example, a file may be verified as safe at one point but then used in a dangerous manner at later time. To mitigate time of check to time of use, it's important to adapt a secure design and a proper sequence of operation to ensure data protection throughout the process. In conclusion, let's discuss the importance of training citizen developers in software security. Citizen developers are individuals who may not be experts in programming but contribute to the software development process. To mitigate risk associated with citizen developers, it's advisable to provide training in software security. This can include basic security concepts, static and dynamic analysis tools, and guidelines for secure development. Encouraging citizen developers to follow security best practices is crucial. This can help reduce vulnerability introduced by non-expert developers. Next, we'll focus on best practices for input validation, a crucial aspect in preventing vulnerability like SQL injection and cross-site scripting. Input validation is crucial because it prevents the insertion of harmful or invalid data into the application. To effectively implement input validation, it's important to use libraries or frameworks that offer validation features and follow whitelist approach rather than blacklists. Another key aspect is user session management. Proper session management is essential to prevent attackers from impersonating users or gaining unauthorized access. Proper session management is crucial to ensure that authenticated users stay authenticated only for the necessary duration and are not vulnerable to session hijacking or fixation attacks. To ensure secure session management, it's advisable to use complex session tokens, appropriate session timeouts, and security protocols like HTTPS. Lastly, we'll conclude by discussing the importance of polymorphism and how it can enhance software security. Polymorphism is an object oriented concept that allows an object to appear in many different ways. Polymorphism can be used in various contexts, such as encryption, for example, by dynamically using different implementation or cryptographic algorithm, you can enhance application security. To fully leverage polymorphism in terms of security, it's important to ensure that the implementation are robust and free of vulnerabilities. Thank you.